Observations with Robert Meyer Burnett.
This next one comes from Alexandria. Alexandra says, Dear Robert, I want to thank you for all your hard work. Your shows have meant a great deal to me as I suffer through the most difficult time in my life. My beloved 86-year-old grandmother, Maria, is dying. She entered at-home hospice care yesterday. She has Alzheimer's and congestive heart failure. My grandmother has been the most important person in my life. My mother, who passed away from cancer years ago, was a single mother and therefore had to work. Consequently, my grandmother took care of me during the day and passed on her love for movies and all good stories. My grandmother schooled me in classic film and television from my earliest days. Because of Maria, I know Little Audrey, Little Lulu, The Incredible Mr. Limpet, Miranda, Darby O'Gill and the Little People, and Steamboat Willie. As I grew older, my grandmother introduced me to more age-appropriate works. My knowledge now includes everything from Ida Lupino to David Fincher. Wow, your grandmother did a great job. I know the difference between a Janus film and a Hammer film. The Twilight Zone and Star Trek was required watching in my family, especially Star Trek because my grandfather was a dead ringer for William Shatner. I'm loving you more and more here, Alexandra. And James Bond. Always James Bond. Maria has the patience of Job. My grandmother took my uncle to see A New Hope and Empire Strikes Back more than 6 times each when they came out. Wow. My uncle was too young to go on his own for those films. Grandma took my sister more than 10 times to see the animated Beauty and the Beast in the theaters. Maria spent endless afternoons with RKO's Astaire and Rogers films playing over and over while I tried to learn the dance routines. One afternoon, I spontaneously asked my grandmother to take my younger sister and I to the movies instead of going straight home to do homework, and she said, yes. The movie we saw? Super Mario Brothers. An absolutely terrible movie. An absolutely wonderful afternoon in memory. I'm a movie theater manager now. I can tell you that Scorsese is completely right. We are losing the knowledge of the past, and therefore we are losing the ability to appreciate the present. I have lost count of how many times my colleagues and or patrons have looked at me with a completely blank face, not a flicker of recognition of the classic movie or star director producer I'd mentioned. People complained about the length of Avengers Endgame, but have never heard of Lean's Lawrence of Arabia or Dr. Zhivago. A young teen girl came in with her mother to watch a movie. The girl had a purse that had an image on it of the live-action remake of Cinderella starring Lily James. I talked to the family a bit. The daughter loved Cinderella, all the versions, she said. The daughter mentioned the animated classic and Ever After starring Drew Barrymore. I asked her if she'd ever seen The Glass Slipper or More Than a Miracle. The young teen just stared at me. So did her mother. Neither knew that Leslie Caron or Sophia Loren had done versions of the Cinderella story. The daughter didn't even know who Karen or Lauren were, or Loren, pardon me. The mother recognized the names but didn't know the movies. Young guys are psyched to see the new Top Gun movie but have never heard of Hell's Angels or Wings. Because I work with good people in a smaller town, I've been able to take my grandma to work with me. I buy my grandmother a ticket and snacks, and she would watch the movies all day while I worked. When my grandma needed a wheelchair and more supervision, I was able to pay some of the college employees to sit next to my grandmother and watch films. I couldn't pay them as much as a home care worker, but definitely more than the pay they were getting from the movie company. It became a hot ticket to watch a movie with Grandma because you got paid in cash and got free snacks. One day, my grandma turned to me when we were going home after a day from the movies. My grandmother told me that I made her feel rich because she got to see all the movies she wanted. My grandma told me that she would take the memories with her when she died. You can't take material things with you, only the memories, Maria would say. I told her that it was my pleasure. Then I laughed and told her she wasn't going to die for at least another 10 years. Maria's mother made it to 94, and I was expecting the same from her. My grandma smiled at me and laughed. The past few years, she saw almost every movie that came throughout our town. She loved 1917, Ford vs. Ferrari, Knives Out, Bohemian Rhapsody, and Crazy Rich Asians. My grandmother has had a sudden and dramatic decline in her health in the last month, and more specifically in the last week. Last week, she could still walk, was eating, and had an oxygen level of 97%. As I write this, Maria has become bedbound, all food and drink tastes awful, and her oxygen hovers between 90% and 92%. I howl into the uncaring void at the impending loss that is coming. I have always had my grandmother. We faced the death of my mother, her daughter, together. The deaths of my grandfather, her husband, as well as all of my grandmother's siblings, my great aunts and uncles. Maria was the youngest of the family. We have lived together, just the two of us, since 2012. My grandmother was the person who I shared my day with, my hopes and disappointments. Her wisdom has guided me through difficult decisions. Her unconditional love was a sanctuary from an uncaring world. Grandma is the person who cared if I wasn't feeling well. Even now, when she catches me crying, my grandmother comforts me and tells me not to worry, that everything will be all right, and to not worry or feel bad. But everything will never be fully all right again. Scenes from Blade Runner and Oliver Twist flash through my mind. I want more life, Father. Please, sir, can I have some more? Or the scene from the X-Men animated TV show, where all the characters gave up a little bit of their life expectancy to bring back Jean Grey from the dead at the end of the show's version of the Dark Phoenix saga. I would gladly give up some of my life so that Grandma can have some more. But I know there is no more time. There wasn't more time for my grandfather or my mother, and she is in pain, even with the morphine. Her pain is unbearable to me. Unbearable. I curse that Maria's last good year on this earth was 2020. My grandmother asked me almost daily if we were going to the movies that day, and her face would fall when I had to explain that the theater was closed because of a pandemic, and that we'd go once to the theaters when they open again. She really wanted to see the new James Bond film. My grandma loved Casino Royale and enjoyed Craig as Bond. Theaters still haven't opened back up in our town, and they won't open back up in time. The isolation from the strict quarantine that I kept her under had a toll on Maria's health overall. She withered as time went by, so slowly at first that I didn't see it was happening. The past night, I awoke to the sound of her moving in bed. Gigi was playing, and she was softly singing along with "The Night They Invented Champagne." I looked over at my grandmother. She turned to me and smiled. "I love this movie," Maria said. "Me too. You showed it to me," I replied. Our little home was filled for at least one more night with the sound of us singing, laughing, and talking about the movie we were watching. Soon it will only be me in these four walls. There will be nothing to anchor my days or nights. I will make the only sounds in this place. Will it be enough? I'm furloughed till who knows when. Friends and family scattered due to COVID-19. Will I survive the nothingness of life until friends, family, and work return? I'm not sure. I don't know if the movies and the memories will help heal the wound or just keep reopening it. Your shows help, Rob. They distract my mind from the grief and the loneliness. You make me laugh. My grandmother's favorite song, As Time Goes By from Casablanca, will be playing at her viewing. I would request that everyone... I would request that everyone in this lovely community play it once, Sam, for old time's sake. In remembrance of Maria, a grandmother who was an imagination connoisseur who helped raise one. Me. Thank you for your time, Robert. Well, that was unexpected. Okay. Well, Alexandra, I don't know what to say. All I can tell you is that you were so lucky to have a grandmother like Maria in your life. I was actually holding my grandfather's hand when he passed away. The moment that he passed away, I was the only one there in the hospital with him. And all I can say is I'm glad at least this show has been able to provide you with some joy. And I guess anyone else out there, I think we should all heed Alexandra's words. And just remember how important the people that we love are in our lives. And we should always make sure that they know it. Fantastic letter. I can't thank you enough for sharing that with all of us. It was beautifully written. You know, I have an idea. We're doing a short story competition, and I would like to include this maybe in the introduction of the book as an example about the power of movies. I think I'll do that, if that's okay with you.